TRC EDC here, back again with another knife video. This is the Benchmade Bugout. It's the 535 GRY version. As you can see, these are the scales that originally went on it. These are the plastic FRN, or what Benchmade calls Grivery scales. And I've already gone ahead and done the disassembly on this. I had planned to make a video of the disassembly so I could show the scale swap, but my plans were foiled. Unfortunately, the disassembly did not go smoothly, and I figured I'd save you guys the problems I had with it, but that I would go ahead and show you some of the things or tips and tricks that I went through or used to fix it. So, first off, why do the scale swap? Well, I actually really like these scales, and that is saying a lot considering I normally hate plastic scales, and when I bought this, I bought it with the intention that I would never keep plastic scales. I got used to them, and I kind of grew to like them, which really shocked me. And it almost shocked me as much as the fact that I grew to like the Bugout in the first place, because it's a smaller knife. Most of my knives are larger knives. I did not envision myself actually liking the Bugout as much as I do, but I really, really like it. And I have a review video that you can go back and look at to talk about some of the reasons why. But in the meantime, these are the Allen Putman scales. They are the green micarta scales. I got them from GP Knives. I saw that they were out of them for a while. I waited on them. They had the black linen micarta ones. I almost bought those, but I went ahead and held out for the green ones. The lighting here sort of makes these look a little bit black, but trust me, they are green. They also come in G10. Sorry about that. They also come in G10. And the G10 design is very, very similar to this. It has this sort of cross pattern with ridges. And I believe there's a couple other G10 designs as well. The G10 comes in a wide range of colors. As far as I can tell, the micarta only comes in green or black. I don't think I saw a natural version of it, at least by Allen Putman. Rogue Blade Works did do maybe a one-off of a micarta scale for the Bugout. I think Zach's stuff has a video on that. You can take a look. He has it in a couple of his videos. But I don't think that they made that for any long-term continuation of scales. I think the reasoning was the scales were a little bit more brittle than they wanted. I decided I'd go ahead and risk that because I just love micarta. And you know what? The scales aren't so expensive that I'd feel too terribly if they broke. That being said, they aren't cheap. I think they ran me about $70 or so. So they're definitely not cheap. You can check the GP Knives website for the exact pricing. I'm not going to go ahead and do that right now, but they are pretty nice. They feel great. The texturing gives it nice grip. They are extremely light, approximately as light as the plastic scales. Maybe the plastic scales are a little bit lighter, but I'm talking fractions of an ounce, which, the Bugout by itself, I believe, is only, 1.9 ounces, something along those lines, with the plastic scales. So maybe this is up at about 2.3, something like that. It really doesn't add much of any weight, and if it even adds any weight at all, it's not noticeable. But it does add a nice feel. It has a different feel, a more premium feel to the knife, and it retains a lot of what I like, the color. I would prefer if I could get a micarta more this color, because I just really like the color scheme that Benchmade chose with this Ranger green. But that being said, this green, which is a little bit like, it's not quite an OD green, but it is not a brighter green either. So I do like this, and you can see it does go very well with this knife. You can sort of see more of the green here as I bring it up to the light. And let me see if I can get a close-up of the micarta design on here, so you can see the ridges and sort of the napping of the material. I believe this is a canvas micarta. I think the black one might be a linen, but I think this green one is a canvas micarta. The difference between a canvas and a linen micarta is linen tends to be a lot finer in the structure. So you see here all the threads and grains running through it. Those are going to be a lot smaller in the linen micarta. So if you're wondering the difference between canvas and linen micarta, that's really the biggest difference. So what does that translate to? Well, that translates to linen tends to be a little bit, have more of a polished feel, even when it's not so, even when it is rigid and not so polished. And the reason for that is, think about your sheets. If you have a high thread count sheet versus a low thread count sheet, this is more of what would be a lower thread count, or I should say a middle thread count. The linen would be the high thread count. This is still premium, and a lot of people prefer the canvas because of the grippiness of canvas to linen micarta. That being said, there's plenty of linen micarta used on a lot of tools that really need good grip. So I'm extremely happy with this. Unfortunately, I didn't get to show the disassembly. I will say some of the tips that, some of the issues that I had. So really the main issue was the pivot, getting the pivot in and out. And I tried a lot of things. I watched Nick Shabazz's video on the disassembly of this, and it was helpful, but not as helpful as they usually are, because actually once you, he had quite a bit of trouble himself putting this together, and when he was pushing the pivot through, it just sort of popped through for him, and he didn't really explain how he did it. So, normally I love his disassembly videos, but, he may want to go back and do the disassembly for that one again. I'm not criticizing, I'm just sort of pointing out for those people who do want to go ahead and disassemble the Benchmade Bugout in the future. Just be aware that if you're watching Nick Shabazz's video, which is still a great video to watch as you're disassembling this knife, the Benchmade Bugout, just remember that when you get to the pivot, there are some additional tricks you'll need to incorporate into the video. So the main trick is that the pivot is round here, but on the stem of the pivot, it's not round. It has a shape sort of like round and then flat at the top. And so you have to line up the flat with the top of the knife here. Now I did that with the bailout, and I forgot it first, but I remembered it within a few minutes as to what that issue was. But the real issue was getting it through the blade. And I tried it with the blade closed, I tried it with the blade open, putting it in, and ultimately I also tried it with that knife half disassembled with just the axis lock assembly in here. If you see, there's a metal assembly in there. And so I tried just doing it with the metal assembly, and then adding the scales later, or adding the top scale later, I should say. The bottom scale had to be on in order to get the pivot through. But ultimately, the best way to do it was to almost fully assemble the handle, and then get the two washers and the blade and push it in to the fully assembled handle, which was not the first choice that I had on how to do it, but it actually worked the easiest. And once I got that in, you just take your driver and you push it through. This is before you even install the pivot. This is just when it's the handle and the knives with the pivots lying on the table. You make sure all the washers and the blade are lined up. You push this all the way through to make sure that they're all lined up. Just move it around to line up the washers. Then you take the pivot and you'll go ahead and push that through, and it is going to get stuck. The way to unstick it is hold on to the blade, hold on to the pivot, and just wiggle the axis lock a little bit. And the second I wiggled the axis lock, it sucked through to the other side like it had zero resistance. And I just had to laugh at myself a little bit that I couldn't figure that out earlier. But once I did that, everything was great. The action on it is still a drop shot action. As you can see, it was drop shot before I disassembled it, and it's still drop shot now. It's quite smooth, and the centering is, let's see if we can see that. Come on, focus. Okay, it doesn't want to show the centering here. Okay, so you may or may not be able to see, but it's actually dead on the money. It looks like it's a little bit off center, but it's actually dead on the money. You can see it right over that spacer, that it's right in the middle. So yeah, I'm very happy with how this turned out. I guess the biggest criticism I have of this is of these scales, because they actually milled very, very well. I'm very happy with the way they're milled for the most part, except for one thing. The biggest criticism I have is that if you look in here, the Bugout scales, the stock scales, have this little recess where the pivot goes. And this one has a recess, but the pivot screw sticks out a little bit more, even when fully tightened, than it does on the stock scales. Now that might be because of the fact that it's lower, or it might be because there's a little bit of a curve up here on the stock scales, whereas here it's this milled pattern. And that might be the reason why, but it's just something to be aware of, that it's not necessarily flush. All right, the pivots are 10. It might be my fault that it's not flush. Let me see real quick. No. Okay, so it is the knife. You can actually see, or I mean, it's the scales. You can actually see that the pivot isn't flush in the scales. Whoop, come on. Oh, I don't know why we're having such problems focusing today, but you can maybe hear it. Where there's a little bit of side-to-side movement on the pivot when fully tightened. It doesn't tighten up against both scales. So that is probably the biggest issue. Does it affect the function of the knife? It actually doesn't. I'm a little bit surprised that that doesn't have any issue. There's a little side-to-side play, but not terrible. Not any worse than most of my other Benchmades. So yeah, I think it's okay. But you do have that problem where the pivot sort of goes back and forth when you push it. So it's not perfect. Who knows, maybe I can get a new pivot made. But the scales, other than that, are pretty awesome. I'm very happy with them. Okay, that's it. Go ahead and like and subscribe. I think I rambled a little bit on this video, but I hope you guys don't mind. I do enjoy the assembly, disassembly, the talking to you guys. I hope you don't mind the rambling, and I'm doing it again, so I'm just going to sign off. Go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel, and have a good night. That's what happens when I record at 2 in the morning.